Hello. So after finishing Moby Dick this morning, I thought that I would try to read something very different. So I pulled off my shelf my copy of the collected works of Dorothy Parker. It's a great edition. It was given to me by a very good friend of mine. Her name is Jenny, and she actually always reminds me of Dorothy Parker. She's so witty and sharp, quick, acerbic, caustic. Um, all the things that I also think about Dorothy Parker. Um, and she inscribed it to me. To Matthew, one of my most treasured books, to my most treasured friend. There's nothing more valuable than a book with a personal inscription. A great reminder. So this morning I read Mrs. Hofstadter on Josephine Street. And I read it because Jenny had a postcard randomly in here, so I didn't pick it. My friend Jenny picked it some time ago. She's an artist. So there's a postcard. She made the postcard. It also has an inscription, not to me. So I don't know who that is. So I read Mrs. Hofstadter on Josephine Street, and it's a story of a well-to-do couple. It's a wife who's a writer and her husband who's a colonel, and they are summering. They're on their summer vacation, the kind of vacation that you take an entire season for. That sort of well-to-do. And they're summering at West Catalpa Boulevard. I don't know where that is. It's, I imagine, somewhere north of New York, maybe Connecticut, or maybe Connecticut. So it begins straight away that they're in their bungalow, and they go to an employment agency, and they're looking for a maid. And the husband and wife, they go in and they talk to a woman in there. And of course the whole thing is funny. Just immediately, sentence after sentence after sentence. It's just quirky, weird, witty. The husband's looking for a maid, but he doesn't want a female maid. He wants a male maid. And he's very specific that he wants someone to be seen and not heard. He wants to have peace and quiet and just have everything done like how you imagine a really great waiter or waitress, where all of your needs are fulfilled before you even think about them. He's explaining this to the woman, and she goes, "Oh, I have the perfect person for you." And it's a man named Horace, and he worked for Mrs. Hofstadter on Josephine Street. As a quick aside, because I don't want to keep bringing it up, but the book is casually racist, the short story. And I don't know if it's supposed to be social satire or social commentary, or if it's just a borderline or just racist. I kind of I don't know what I think about that yet. But the woman says, "This great guy, it's Horace. He worked for Mrs. Hofstadter. He's black, but it's okay." Says that. So they go, "Well, if Mrs. Hofstadter, if it's Mrs. Hofstadter's servant, surely it's the best. She lives on Josephine Street." They don't even know what this is, but So they hire him, and they're eagerly anticipating the arrival of their male maid, Horace. The colonel is even worried that he hasn't even met him yet. He's already worried that he might not come back to New York with them after they're done summering. So Horace arrives, lets himself in, doesn't knock or ring a doorbell, just suddenly appears in the living room and presents himself. And he starts giving these speeches. The first thing he says is, I want to let you know that I'm gonna treat this home as if it's my home, and I've already called all of my friends, and I let them know that if they ever need me, they'll come here because this is my home now. And he talks about how he has all of these friends, and the wife and the colonel need to meet all of his friends because that's going to be the best recommendation. And immediately, very, very quickly, you realize that this guy likes to monologue. He's giving these speeches, and like the husband, the colonel, is like already trying to see him to his room. And at every moment, he just keeps talking and talking about how they're going to meet. They're going to meet his daughter, and they're going to meet all of his friends and all of his lady friends, and how they're going to be so surprised by how many lady friends he has. He also only refers to himself in the third person. So, and he's bragging about himself, like, oh, Horace is going to do this for you, and Horace is going to make you the best dinner. And suddenly, like, now he's in there, and what happens is the phone isn't ringing, people aren't coming over, and instead, Horace is just constantly talking in their faces, to the point of the wife. I think I forgot to mention, the wife is a writer, and one of her goals for the summer vacation was to sit at her typewriter and work. And so there's this scene where she's at her typewriter, Horace is opposite her, just talking incessantly at her, and it's always at them. They're not really talking to each other. And I marked one part, which I think I might have already lost at this point. The wife, it just gives you a great example of how the male maid is interacting with the wife and husband. The wife asks for a glass of water. Horace, I said, may I have a glass of water, please? Can you have a glass of water? Horace said. Can you have a glass of water? Well, I'll tell you just what Horace is going to do. He's going out there in that kitchen, and he's going to bring you just the biggest, coldest glass of water you ever had in your life. There's going to be nothing too good for you. Now Horace is here. Why, he's going to do for you just like he was doing for Mrs. Hofstadter out in her lovely home on Josephine Street. You hear the rooster? So that's how they interact, and they're just getting infuriated, and they don't know what to do. They're just they're just stuck with this person. The ending I didn't quite understand. Horace does leave at some point, but just a great like this book. The couple was going on a vacation, and for me, it felt the same. It was a treat and a retreat. And the other thing I want to mention, which is just sort of random or coincidental, is the thing that I was thinking about reading, or I'm already reading. I didn't put it next to me, but I've been reading Horace's satires. So I pick, sort of at random, I picked out a book, and then at random, I went to a certain story. And one of the main characters in the book is named Horace. So if I didn't know what I was going to be reading next, now I do. Um, I went it there. Um, I absolutely adore Dorothy Parker. Just so consistently good, f- funny, dark. A lot of her stories really are very dark, but um, it's not light comedy. I mean, they're caustic, acerbic, jagged, cutting kind of humor that I just love. Even if the stories can feel a little frivolous, they're always so subversive and have underpinnings um, that just leave you. Um, yeah, I don't know. Leave a comment if you would like. Again, the story was Mrs. Hofstadter on Josephine Street by Dorothy Parker.